RCK. From watching Scientology in the Aftermath and from various websites, people who leave Scientology or blow are afraid that other Scientologists will come after them and bring them back. In Scientology in the Aftermath, the Headleys describe how they blew and had to evade those seeking to find them and bring them back. Also, in the same series, there was a story of one ex-Scientologist being tracked down in South Africa and being brought back to the States. My question is, what does it mean to be brought back? It sounds like people have a real fear of being brought back against their will, by being kidnapped or abducted. Is this fear real? Or does being brought back mean persuading an ex-Scientologist to come back by the use of arguments? For example, you left behind family and friends and they all miss you, or you know Scientology is right and now that you've been in the world you know how right it is. The latter I can understand, but if it is the former, it makes one wonder why no one has ever filed a police report. Okay, well, first things first. People have filed police reports against the Church of Scientology for lots of things. The fact that the police don't act on it is another thing. And that could involve statute of limitations, that could involve evidence, that could involve more than he said, she said. Because when you have somebody who's making a complaint against a group, and that group can provide 20 sworn statements that never happened, or that this person has, got an axe to grind or something, then the police are, their hands are tied a bit. And that's what Scientology does all the time. So let's just kind of, nix this idea that nobody's ever gone to the police about Scientology. Now, as far as the blowing thing goes, I think you're mainly referring to Sea Org members. The run-of-the-mill public Scientologist doesn't blow Scientology. They stop showing up for courses or for auditing, and they stop taking phone calls. And people come around. I was one of those people who used to come around, knock on the door, try to get the person back in. And that was all done through conversation. Sometimes heavy-handed methods were used, like summoning them in for an ethics interview, or trying to, hey man, you don't, toe the line. You're gonna be in a lot of trouble. And of course, if the person is not interested in doing Scientology anymore, that usually doesn't work too good. I learned that the hard way a number of times, and that's how I got better at getting people back in, because I didn't go with a heavy-handed approach. When a staff member at a city-level church blows, just stops showing up for work, then of course they're absolutely going to call the guy, email him, track him down, try to get him to come back to work. But there's only so much you can do. If the guy says, look, I ain't coming back, and there's nothing that you're going to say that's going to change my mind, then that's going to be it. They'll issue a goldenrod on the person. They'll say he's a type, some type of source of trouble. Or they might, if the guy was really off, and really mad and really irate and threatening to go public or something, then they might declare the person a suppressive person. But that's really kind of few and far between as far as staff members go at the church, at the city level churches. For the Sea Org, okay, let's take a look at the mindset of a Sea Org member. They are 24/7, they are hardcore, they are dedicated. They are in a group where conformity is king, where they are expected to toe the line, and if they don't toe the line, it's on them. It's not on the group. It's, from their point of view, and from all the material that they read and all the indoctrination they get and all the peer pressure that exists, they're the ones who are out of line if they don't follow the rules and do what's expected of them. And they have signed a billion-year contract of commitment. For them, that wasn't symbolic. The church says it's a symbolic commitment. Not to Sea Org members, it's not. So you have literally signed on for life. So that's your mindset when you go into a group like that, and it takes a great force of will to be able to see that there's something really, really wrong with this group, and to step out of it and go, I don't want to be part of this anymore. And I'm talking about people, of course, who've been involved for a while. For somebody who's just fresh off the boat, they just joined the Sea Org a couple days ago and they just want to leave, well, they'll generally speaking, they'll just let them go. They don't generally speaking put up too much of a fight. Maybe the guy has to hang around for a month or two as they, clean some, scrub some floors or scrub some toilets or something, and they kind of run him through the ringer before they kick him to the curb. But for the long-term guys, there's a psychological component there, and it's a powerful one. So it's a big deal for them to step out of that group and stop conforming and step out from under that authority. And they're very nervous about it. They're very conflicted about it. There's lots of doubts. There's lots of confusion. There's lots of uncertainty. And that is what gets preyed upon by people who try to go recover these people when they blow, when they take off. You know, they're generally speaking, they take off at odd times, middle of the night, early morning. I mean, they're tired, they're confused, they are overworked. They might have they're already in many cases suffering from some degree of anxiety, depression, PTSD. I mean, Scientology, you know, the Sea Org really creates this kind of thing with its 24/7 high pressure, you know, call center kind of environment that it always generates for Sea Org members. The pressure is enormous. So stepping out of that, and you know, everything that sort of means for their future, because you know, when you buy into Scientology, you believe that this is your future. You don't, you know, this is the only thing that matters, and this is the only thing that's going to save yourself and save the world. So, you know, you come out of a situation like that by leaving, you know, in an unauthorized manner, and you got all kinds of, you know, things going on in your head. So if they can track you down through bus, you know, tickets or airplanes tickets, or through your credit cards or your ATM use or something like that, and they try all those methods to track Sea Org members down, if they can actually get to you, they're going to prey on every one of those doubts and uncertainties that you have. So yes, it is a conversation. I don't know, I can't think of instances where I would say there was kidnapping involved in recovering somebody, but that's not to say it hasn't happened. I'm just not thinking of anything off the top of my head right now. They will absolutely come and put their arms around you, you know, try to control you back over to their car. So to that degree, there's, you know, physical coercion. But, you know, they're not going to try to create a scene in public, that's for sure. That's why when Claire Headley went and just sat down on the floor in the middle of the train station or bus station, they couldn't really do anything. I mean, they were like, oh, you know, this is going to be, you know, we're going to have a scene here. And they don't want any scenes. They don't want to have anything to do with any of that. They don't want the police called. They don't want any kind of authority figures showing up. So they're going to do everything they can to avoid that like the plague. But they will still pursue the person through phone, email, text messages, calls, or in person, to try to get them back, because they are afraid of what the person's going to do. You know, somebody blows, they take off, now they're no longer under that mantle of control that the Sea Org has over its members. And they don't know what this person's going to do. So minimally, they want to do damage control. And they want to make sure that this person is still a true believer in Scientology, therefore is still a believer that that Scientology holds all the keys to their future, that their eternity is at stake. And they'll maybe let the guy go out of the Sea Org. They'll go, okay, come back, let's go through the process, and then they'll drag it out for months, as I've described in earlier videos here, as to how and why they do that. And if the guy still wants to go, fine, eventually he can get out of there. But they want to do everything they can to minimize PR damage to the church from former members. And I understand that at this point they're actually paying people, you know, quite a bit, and reducing freeloaders' debts, and being, you know, coming off as kinder, gentler Sea Org now. And I think that's a direct result of our work, certainly Leah's work, and the work of Alex Gibney and Lawrence Wright. I mean, absolutely. But I think all of us have contributed to that, because the Sea Org now is taking actions to try to help get people jobs and make sure that everything is fine with them, and paying them more money than they were paying them before. And so that I think also so that the NDAs they have to sign have a little bit more teeth to them. And so that's why we're not necessarily hearing from as many former members as we used to, because the Sea Org, you know, they're cunning, they're crafty, they're not stupid. And they know that if they keep kicking people to the curb and abusing them along the way, that people are just going to go to the media and go to Leah and go to Mike Rinder or come to my channel or Aaron Smith Levins, and they're going to talk, you know, or go to Tony Ortega and tell them a story. And so they're trying to minimize that now by, you know, not being quite so ruthless and authoritarian. But as far as the blow thing goes, as far as somebody actually taking off, everything I've said here is still completely valid and in force as far as I know. So there you go.